Welcome to the American Business Podcast. I'm Kevin D, your host. I'm welcoming you, episode 125. We are in season 5 in the American Business Podcast. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. Today's number, 4.3. That is, economic growth rose at a 4.3% annual rate in the third quarter in the US. And quote of the day. As you know, we have a great partnership with missionstatements.com. And today's quote is, one must be sane to think clearly, but one think deeply and be quite insane. I love this quote and I just wanted to share it with you. Well, before we get started, as you know, we started the business podcast as a service offering. And so far we got a great feedback, great response from you, from businesses. We truly appreciate your help and support. Well, our goal in the business podcast as a service offering is to share our knowledge, our experience, and help you connect with the American Business Podcast viewers and listeners. Because we have quite an experience with the podcasting, we'll be happy to help you shape, design, and prepare your business podcast with your own branding. And you'll be in front of thousands of the American Business Podcast viewers and listeners. As you know, the American Business Podcast is an informative business podcast, and you'll be in this business podcast network, and you'll be sharing your thoughts as a thought leader, your professional insights, and you'll introduce your product, services, as well as other important information with the American Business Podcast viewers and listeners. If you like to be getting information about business podcast as a service, please email us, PAAS@americanpodcast.tv. And before we get started with our guest, we have a great conversation coming up. Well, as you know, we organize online monthly business networking events. We call these PODCASTING+NETWORKING, Connectional America Business Alliance, podcasting and networking, online business networking events. And this month's event is coming up on January 30th. If you'd like to sign up, if you'd like to be in the American Business Podcast and network with other business professionals, please scan this QR code on the screen and pick the date that you'd like to join us, which the closest one is January 30th, and sign up and join us. What is cool about this online networking event is that while you are networking with other business professionals, you'll be in the podcast, you'll be in the American Business Podcast, and you'll be in front of the American Business Podcast viewers and listeners. So 2-in-1, podcasting plus networking. That's what is unique about it. And I hope you join us. We have limited seating, and when you scan the QR code, you'll be able to sign up and register and join us. It is January 30th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. All right, I think we can get the conversation started. Let me invite our guest to our virtual stage, and let's get the conversation started. All right, let's do this. All right, this is great. Hello, Bob. Hello, Nayris.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Pleasure is all mine. I'm happy to have you in the American Business Podcast. I hope you are having a great week so far.
We are. It went so fast. It's been busy. It's been fun.
This first week of January is a great time. You know, it's almost like spring. You know, it's in the middle of the winter, but after the holidays go by, I find a lot of business owners are rejuvenated at this time of the year. They're excited about getting the year kicked off. You know, and then you get into February, and then all of a sudden you're back in spring, and you get that extra burst of energy. And then I think it happens again in September. So, but I like this time of year.
Yes, and I agree. So, just to support your point, Bob. So, I mean, you work hard entire year, all these grind, and just like you said, when the January comes, it's just like a reset. You start from scratch, right? As if nothing happened. And it's a fresh start. So definitely, it's a good feeling in January.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, this is good. Well, how is your reflection on 2025? How was the year overall for you in general?
I think it was a good year. You know, we have the we have terrific jobs, right? Nayris and I. We get to work with business owners. I find the business owners that we work with, especially on Long Island, to be just wonderful, wonderful business owners. They're thoughtful. They work hard. They're creative. And it's very rewarding to, you know, because we assist those business owners. We help them think through their decisions. We help them hire better. We help them in their day-to-day operations. And, you know, not to sound silly, but at the end of the day, you know, I think we help people be happier in what they do. And that's pretty rewarding. So last year was no exception. Last year was a good year for us in that respect. And I look forward to next year in that respect as well.
Yes, that is exciting. Well, why don't we get the conversation started, if that's okay, in more detail? Let's start with introductions. Would you please introduce yourself and your organization to our viewers and to our listeners?
Absolutely. My name is Nayris Donna Martinez, and I am managing partner of a company called A Bridge to Performance. And Bob is my partner in that company. And we're also partners in a company called PI Performance, which is our business consulting company.
Yeah, and in PI Performance, one of the things that we do is we run boards. It's the name of the franchise is the Alternative Board, short for TAB. And what we do in the PI business is we bring together business owners for monthly meetings, and they act as each other's advisors, and they solve each other's problems. And it's amazing to me when you get a group of business owners together and how quickly they bond, they care about each other, they develop trust. And you know, by the end of a year, you know, you put somebody new on in our organization, within a couple of months, you know so much about them from a business perspective, from a financial perspective, from a personal perspective. And we work with entire people, not just a business, not just an aspect. You know, we look at this as it's a whole person, and a business is a whole person, right? And it has a personality, and that's really how we look at it.
Yeah. And it's incredibly rewarding to facilitate a board and be able to sit back and sort of, you know, see that the right people are together, the right groups of people have become so entwined, and it's incredibly rewarding to be a part of all of their lives and all the little bits and pieces that they share in every board meeting. So I've been a part of the organization for 18 years, and I couldn't imagine not being in, you know, working for another one. It's wonderful.
You know, and it runs the whole gamut. The things that you might hear somebody has a cash flow problem. They might be having difficulty getting financing. They may want to consider an acquisition, some other investment. You help them think through the financial aspect of it. Or am I expanding my staff? And what's the best way to do that? What kind of people do I need? Or it could be I've got a family situation I need to resolve, and I need to spend more time away from the business. And how do I get my team to step up and run the business, you know, and not rely on me every minute of the day? And you know, and we make sure all those things happen. We try to help people maintain their work-life balance. You know, if somebody in our group, we realize they haven't had a vacation in 9 months or a year, we push them. We all push them. Everybody in the board will say, hey, you got to get some time away. You need some perspective. It's again, it's the whole business. It's the operations, it's the finance, it's the personal.
What is your vision for the company's future?
Well, we're running two separate businesses, two separate directions. On the TAB side of the business, on the board side, we're always looking for business owners that are looking for they don't think they're the smartest person in the room. They're prepared to share. You know, you want to walk into one of our meetings with you want to get something out of it, but you really also want to give. And if you're the type of person that is willing to give of your time and give of your knowledge, you're going to be successful. Always looking for people like that to add to our boards, and we're focused mostly in Nassau County, is where most of our clients are. in terms of the other business, I'm not sure where Nayris ended up going, but we also work with teams in that business, and we help teams become more efficient. We've had clients come to us and say, what's the I have this one team, and they seem to come up with great plans, but they never get anything done. Why is that? So using the assessment tools that we have, we can analyze the teams, and we can help them restructure their teamwork and see how things are going and why. Sometimes you have a team with a lot of creative people, but nobody that can execute. Sometimes you have executors that don't have ideas. Sometimes you have people that work off a to-do list, other people that work off of more of a chaotic environment. I was handling your business. I didn't know where you went.
I didn't know where I went either. So we were talking about bridge. Bridge is a passion. Yes, Bob, osmosis is a thing. Let's just put it that way. So for 14 years, I worked with a gentleman who was an expert in these assessments. And although I didn't become certified then, I learned, apparently, just from sitting there listening to him for so long. And then when Bob and I became, when we started working together about 4.5 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my world anymore. And he started to take me on some consulting appointments. And he also has used the assessments in his prior world and in his consulting today. So as he would be going through the assessments, I decided I needed to chime in with what I thought I knew. And it happened to, it brought out a part of me I didn't know existed. And couple that with, I have a very innate ability to read people well, because I care so very much about what makes them tick and what they think. And when you couple that with the assessment, it makes it an extraordinary experience for me, because every debrief is different. And I think that's what it sets me apart. That's what makes me a special personality assessment specialist.
We do a lot of interesting, like one really interesting thing that's come up in the last couple of years, and we didn't anticipate this, honestly, when we put the business together, was that from doing assessments, from understanding them, dealing with business owners, we get into situations where somebody would be like, this next position I'm hiring is really important to me, and I've got these two candidates, and this one looks like they'll be successful for this reason, and this one looks like they'll be successful. We can help them think that through. But some of our clients has actually gone ahead, taken the next step, and said, hey, Nayris, would you do me a favor and interview these two candidates, because we'd love your feedback. So we've become an extension of the hiring process for some of our clients as well, which is really a lot of fun. And as a person who's hiring, it's really nice to get an outsider's opinion on somebody. How do they come across, especially when you're interviewing them from the perspective of understanding what's in their assessment. So you come at it from what might they be embellishing, what might they be hiding, what might not work in this situation, and with the benefit of understanding how the assessment works, you really can add tremendous value to the hiring process.
Absolutely. But look, yes, we do a lot of our clients. We do this for so many different industries with so many a range of different employee counts and for so many different positions. But what's so fascinating to me and what keeps this so interesting all the time is we don't just do this for business anymore. So a few of so it's now we are offering our assessments, which there are so many different ones, but right now we're focusing on the DISC and driving forces, but we offer a multitude of different assessments for different things. But the DISC and driving forces we're now using for high school and college kids to they use it to see if they're on the right path, if where they think they want their career to go is where they should be. We have used it in relationships to help husbands and wives communicate better. Once they understand the other is just inherently who they are. It opens your mind to be able to communicate and want to communicate with them more on their level. That being said, let's move along. I've also helped parents talk to their children better. So once a child takes the assessment, the parent understands now how the child likes to be communicated with and will respond best when communicated in this way. So now we've run the gamut on how helpful these assessments are to so many different, and it helps one person, or it helps, a company of 200. It is just amazing how it's specialized. I don't think people can really wrap their heads around how, number one, accurate the assessments are, but then how useful they are in anything from self-awareness to, putting somebody in the right seat and fitting in your culture.
Yeah, and also on the other side of business, and we haven't touched on this yet, but my background, I came from a finance background. I was a CPA. I'm not. I don't keep up with the certification, but I am a CPA, and I worked in finance for many years. And the other thing that we do is we help people understand their financials. We help build dashboards for people to understand what's going on in their numbers. We work through that side of it. So it's really exciting, because when we go into a new client, you never know where it's going to go. And if we need to pivot to the finance side, if we need to work on strategic planning, we can do that. If we need to go on the communication side, if we need to help people with self-awareness, we can do that as well. So, we're really thought partners for CEOs and owners is really the way I think about it.
I like to get your take on AI. How do you see the impact of AI on business nowadays?
Bob, I'll let you take that. Yeah, please.
I'm not an expert in that field. Some of the things I've heard, I'm very excited about. I'll give you a plug. I've asked you to come in to speak to some of our people for this exact reason.
Sure.
We know there's things that AI can do. I mean, I can envision, again, remember I come from a finance background. So I can envision a situation where AI could assist in getting bills out, in converting purchase orders to payments. And, I know a lot of that's been automated already, but when you add the AI piece of it, and getting things from an invoice into the general ledger without too much human intervention, that's pretty exciting to me. And I've seen some of the financial reports that are coming out of QuickBooks and places like that have an AI angle. So I can anticipate a tremendous future for that. And what I'm excited about is, there's so much as you go through your career, right? A lot of times you're processing data and numbers and things like that. And then as you advance, you start to understand that data, and ultimately you become a receiver of data, so you can make decisions and understand what's going on in your company. AI can help you focus on what's important, what's changing. AI is not going to come in tomorrow and make any decisions for you. You're going to have to make those decisions, but it certainly can help. And we've seen it in the assessments even. AI has helped us isolate individual situations, and we can ask AI questions based on this data that we've learned about these people. What do you think would happen if we did this? What do you think? And most of the time, the answers, they don't give you answers that somebody could run off and act on, but with our help, we can now get you in a direction, and we get there faster. So we can actually increase our volume by using these tools, but it doesn't replace us. So I don't have that fear that so many people have. I see this as a way to get some of the work done that nobody really wants to do anyway.
Well, based on your experience in business, how to survive crisis and uncertainty in business?
What was that? I'm sorry. Oh,
How to
survive crisis and
yes.
uncertainty. There's a couple of ways to approach this answer. One of the things that one of the things that I encourage business owners to do, and anyone who's worked with me knows what question I'm about to ask. The question I ask people is, let's talk about a crisis for a second. What if you don't come into work tomorrow? What if you walk out the door and you never come back again? What happens to your business? And a lot of the answers I get are, well, I have insurance, I have this, I have that. But the real answer, then I ask the question and I say, okay, what happens if you walk out the door and you get hurt and you don't come back for 3 months? What do you come back to? Do you come back to a bankrupt company? Do you come back to, have your employees been paid? Have your bills been paid? Are your customers taken care of? And I encourage disaster planning. I encourage companies to think about that stuff. But also I want to come at it from another angle. If you build your team right, the way Nayris was talking about, and we don't have samples here, but there's different personality traits. So when you build a team, you want to have all those personality traits on your team, or as many as you can, so they can complement each other, right? If you've built your team properly, and if you communicate, if you build trust, if you have a culture of trust, and you share with your people, these business owners who come in and they keep everything in their mind and they don't tell anybody what's going on. When some crisis comes up, how are people going to react? There's a really good book that I read about that I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was a really good book written by a Navy SEAL who talked about how important it was to have many, many small teams, and how the leader all the way at the top, what their vision is and what they want to have happen on that team has to be known all the way down to the soldier in the street that's doing what they do. And this way, when a crisis comes up, when a decision needs to be made, that person can make the most informed decision they can, knowing what the person at the top would have wanted them to do, right? That only comes from communication. It comes from trust, though. Trust is the real thing. And the way you develop that trust is a regular program of communication, a regular program of keeping people informed. I always liked, in my prior career, I ran a company that was about 3,000 employees, and I went way out of my way to constantly communicate and make the company feel small. And I always felt that most of the people in the company would be able to say, what would Bob want me to do? And again, so many owners, they keep it here and they don't talk about it. And I think that's the best way to handle a crisis. The best way to respond to changing environments is to have that communication, that trust.
Tell us about your take on leadership. How would you define leadership, and what are the great leadership qualities a great leader must have?
I'm going to keep going back to the same answer. It's about self-awareness. Okay. So when I had a leadership position with those 3,000 employees, from using assessments, and I wasn't in the business of assessments. I was a consumer of them at the time. I knew that I was a reflective leader. So I knew that if something came up and a decision needed to be made, I was going to think about it. I was going to review it in my head overnight or over a week or over a couple of weeks. But by being self-aware and knowing that's how I made decisions, I also knew that I had a management team that had some people that would make decisions like this. These were I had the people who reacted to crisis, who would jump into battle the second something came up. And I knew those people in my team. And if something came up and I felt that my personality was not going to respond properly to this crisis, I would call those people up, share what was going on with them, and ask them for advice. What would you do if you were me? How would you handle this? I can't access this part of my personality because it's not there, but you have it, So as a leader, again, getting to know your people, getting them to know you, and understanding that you're part of a team, and you can't accomplish anything by yourself. You're orchestrating. You're not going to get anything done if you don't trust the people below you, communicate with them, and take their advice recognize that everybody has something to offer.
Exactly.
You
You're not
surround
the smartest person in the room, and
right.
and if you are, then then you're in the room.
Surround yourself with people smarter than you. That's the whole.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, can you tell us about your role models? Have you had any role models, any mentors in your career journey?
I've thought about this, and I've had several, quite honestly, that have done different things for me. A gentleman named Jan Sussman, who I was exposed to back in the mid '80s, and he was the owner. The company that had 3,000 employees, when I started that company when they had 200 employees, and he was the owner of the company at the time. And ultimately, we went public and expanded and all this stuff. But he was an owner. He was a family business. I learned how to look at a business from a family perspective. He's dealing with his own dollars and cents. He's not responsible to shareholders. He's responsible to himself. He has to look in the mirror, right? And I learned how an owner looks at a business, which is very different than the way a professional manager looks at a business. And he was very organized, very well structured, and he also had a passion for company culture, which deeply impacted me, as you may have noticed by now. And then after Jan left the company, he had sold the company, I'd stayed. And we had another gentleman named Steve Kerrigan, who was an incredibly good leader. He had that aggressiveness, and he had no fear. And the first thing we did when he took the company over was we bought a company 3 times our size. I never would have done that. I would have had too much fear to do that, quite honestly. So I learned how to become fearless from him. And how to take risks and how to build the company. And he probably wouldn't appreciate me saying this, but there were things he did that I didn't agree with. And I learned things that I would never do if I was ever in a leadership position. And when I came to become that position, I took what I learned from Jan, I took what I learned from Steve, and I combined it into something else. And it really helped me in my career.
Yeah, I would say that there were 2 people that were pivotal for me too. So I worked in the late 90s, not to give away my age here, but in the late 90s, I was an assistant, personal assistant to a man named Robert Enton, who runs a company called Vornado. But I learned way back then how important he took care of his employees. He wanted he knew that it started there. For the company to succeed, for the company to grow, he needed to take care of the employees. The culture really mattered. So I learned about that early, before it was a thing, before it was a catchphrase, or the culture was very, very important. And fast forward all these years later, I meet Bob Doyle in August of 2021, and I learn I have a new mentor. He has taught me, he has allowed me to be a part of meetings, strategic meetings, and consultations. And I have learned so much from Bob in the last 4.5 years than I have in almost a career of being out there. Again, not giving away my age. So
Nayris just touched on something really important, and that's this was the premise of the company culture that we tried to build. Is when I was CEO, I focused on the employees. I didn't focus on the customers. I knew, I felt that if I focused on the employees, if I treated them properly, they would in turn treat the customers right. I can't believe these people who have bad hiring practices. They don't have good onboarding. They treat their people, with disrespect. How are those people going to turn around and treat the customers right? How are they going to give a good experience? So the idea is you give your employees, give your people a good experience, show them what you value, and they will give the customers a good experience. And the philosophy I always looked at it is, if I could create a world where I had an employee for life, they would in turn create a customer for life.
And Bob actually wrote a self-published book called Customers for Life. So it's something we very much so believe in. And it worked. He proved it at the company he was the CEO for so long.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, let's talk about books. Are there any books, any movies, any shows that help you shape your career perspective over the years?
Well, my personality assessment says that I only read books that I, care about. I don't read just to read. I have to read with purpose. So, so
Absolutely.
Bob would probably be able. Bob loves to absorb that business knowledge. So, Bob, you take this one.
I read an awful lot of books. I was thinking about content. I read every day and changes from time to time, and the impact it has on me, on what's going on in my life. If I'm in a situation where I feel that I need to be a better coach, a better manager, I'll read books on management, and I'll read books on coaching and how to interact with people and how to get them to become better leaders themselves. Because as a leader, really, that's your goal, is to build a team that really could replace you, right? So you need to mentor those people and lead them. So I've read books about, I don't have a specific name, but I've read books like that. I mentioned the book by the Navy SEAL, and I wish I could remember that book on communication and execution and plans, and and the stakes are pretty high when you're a Navy SEAL, I suspect. And I also like to read. I also like to read spiritual books, books about things bigger than us, and understanding the power of positivity, and it really depends on where I am in my life and in my own personal journey as to what book I'm going to read. So I wish I could give you a specific life-changing book, but the truth of the matter is it's a body of work that I have exposed myself to over 40 years that have all helped me put things in perspective.
Yeah, this is really informative. Well, let's talk about the best career advice and the worst career advice or business advice that you receive.
It's
You want to start with the best one or the worst one?
I'm gonna. Do you want to say something, Nayris? Or you want me to go?
No, you can go first.
I'm going to tell you a story, not about me, about somebody else. But it's exactly what I would have wanted. It's exactly what I would have said. I had the incredible opportunity to meet Derek Jeter for a 10-minute conversation back when he was playing and he was captain of the Yankees, and I was allowed 10 minutes with him, and he said to me, "What do you want to talk about?" I said, "Not baseball." I said, "I want to talk about management." I said, "As team captain, what makes you successful and what makes you liked and what makes you effective?" And he thought, he actually paused for a good 20, 30 seconds, and he said, "You know something? When I was first in this role, some people advised me it's so important that you treat everybody the same, that you're consistent in the way you treat each one of the players." And he said that didn't sit right with me. I thought about that, and I realized very early on in that role that every one of the players was different. They all have different personalities, and there's somebody on this team that I need to yell at, to tell them, stop doing that. And they needed to be yelled at and talked to sternly. And I had other people, if I just hinted at they made a mistake, they would go beat themselves up. And if I yelled at them, it would just demotivate them, and they would show up the next day and make errors and everything like that. So he goes, he said, I think my success is that I get to know each player. I get to know what motivates them and what makes them work better and what demotivates them. And that, I think, is the key to my success. And I couldn't, if I was going to script an answer for him, I couldn't have done it better, because that's exactly how I look at it. So that would be my advice: is treat everybody individually, treat them with respect. It's not that complicated, We learned it when we were kids. We learned it growing up. It's just, you just gotta have common sense. And as a leader, also be vulnerable. It's not You're not walking in. You're not. I don't believe. I've read books that advise this. I don't agree with the philosophy that you're walking in a role and you have to show this and you have to show that. No, you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to trust your people. They've got to know that you're a human. I want you to let people get to know you. We had a client one time who his staff couldn't stand him, and I went to him one day and I said, why? I said, I meet with you personally. I said, you're a funny guy. I laugh all the time we meet. I said, and then I see you in these team meetings and you totally turn your personality. Well, I can't show that to them. I said, no, you have to show that to them. And he started, obviously he couldn't flip a switch and become a stand-up comedian immediately, but he did start to let himself out and be more vulnerable, and it helped.
How about you, Nayris? Best career advice, worst career advice that you received?
I think it really plays along into what Bob was saying. So the worst career advice I received was, I'm not going to use the exact words, but it was, you don't, but it was pretty much in essence, you're okay where you are. You don't, and you don't need to worry about, looking to grow or excel. And I think, what an absolutely horrible thing to say to anybody, because how do you know that? What a way to squash any dreams you might have of going somewhere else. So just be mindful of your words and just how impactful they can be on other people's lives. Because for a very long time, I did believe that when this person said I was just good enough to be in the position I was, I thought that way for a very, very long time. And so yes, the best and worst advice I can say is, just be very, very mindful, because you can really damage someone's growth, honestly. So that would be.
Kevin, do we have a minute for me to double down on that for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
So when one of the things that I used to do is I used to meet with, again, I was a CEO in an organization, and there was so many levels of management. I used to regularly go out to breakfast and lunch with the people who were directly interfacing with the customers. And I would ask them, what would you do if you were me? What would, because everybody in your organization has input. Everybody has something smart to say. And some of the best decisions I made came from what I learned from the people that are turning the wrenches. And I would say, look, I want you to answer this question. Bob, I can't believe you're so stupid that you let this company do this. And I would hear, because you do stuff you make decisions. You don't realize how dumb they sound to other people until you hear it from their perspective. And where this philosophy came from for me was when I was in college. I put myself through college by working as a janitor, and I saw that people disrespected me so much when I had that role. I was horrified at the way people spoke to me. And I could overhear things they would say walking down the hallway. And I said to myself, I don't care who here I was. Ultimately, I'm now sitting here on this podcast, right? So the point I'm making is everybody has value. Everybody has something to say. And the best advice I ever got was from the field. Is from the people that so many executives would say, we're going to make the decisions. You can't, we don't want your input. You got to listen to everybody. Everybody has value. Treat everybody with respect and seriously consider what they have to say.
Do you have any career advice for the next generation business professionals?
I would have a lot to say. Having two, 20-somethings right now in the workforce, I see a lot of I'm sure people understand social media and how it follows them around, but I have just witnessed so much on social media from the younger generation that should not be, because it just never goes away. So, you know, when you think about, no, but in all seriousness, you know, when, I mean, thank goodness social media wasn't around when I was a kid. Whew, I wouldn't want anything about my life up there. But to just be very, again, mindful about, you know, what you say, how you say it, how you present yourself, because in the professional world, even though our lives are so, and you know, there's no such thing as your work and your home life being separate anymore. It's so intertwined. So just don't forget that you know, it's almost like somebody's always watching, and be sure to put your best foot forward. I don't see a lot of that in you know, in my kids' generation at the moment. So just be mindful to keep putting your best step forward, because you know, somebody's looking, somebody's going to be watching.
Yeah, and I would say don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated by, you know, by people who have more experience than you, people who have done it for 20, 30 years. We don't know what we're doing necessarily all the time. And
Yeah.
we can learn from the younger generation. The younger generation can learn from us. You just got to be open-minded. And some of my favorite experiences in the last sort of 5-10 years of my career, when I was working in corporate, were interfacing with the people that were just coming into the workforce and hearing their perspectives, because they see the world a little bit differently, and they're going to own this world. So they've got something to add, and we've got something to add to them. So be open-minded, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to push.
These are really important insights. Thank you so much, Bob, Nayris, for being with us in the American Business Podcast. Thank you for sharing your professional insights with us.
And thank you. And I'm really looking forward to you coming in and helping our people understand what AI can do for them. So
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me, and I'll definitely be there and share my insights. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very
much. Bye-bye.
To our audience and to our listeners, we'll be right back after a short break. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Reddit. Do you know the biggest challenge nowadays for American small businesses? That is visibility. That's why we partner with Reddit for Business. There are more than 440 million visitors weekly on Reddit. Furthermore, Reddit is reliable, and millions of users are going to Reddit to get the real feedback from real people. It is the #1 source for real reviews on products, services, and brands. There is a promotion going on that I'd like you to consider and take advantage of. When you spend $500 on Reddit for advertising, you'll get $500 in advertising credit. True story. I am a Reddit user, and anytime I like to have feedback or review for a product or service, I go to Reddit and I talk to Reddit communities. I get the real feedback and real review from real people and real communities. Scan this QR code and sign up for Reddit advertising. Get the visibility for your company, for your products and services on Reddit with Reddit advertising. Reach people ready to buy your products and services with Reddit advertising. Scan the QR code and sign up today. Thank you for your support. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Anywhere Apps by Kirk Consulting, now Cherry Baker. It is time to digitize and automate your business processes. Anywhere Apps designed for small and mid-sized companies as well as enterprise-level companies to help you digitize and automate your business processes. Today, I'd like to talk about one of the Anywhere apps that's very popular in the US. It is called Nonprofit Management Anywhere. If you are a nonprofit and you like to manage your donations, volunteers, fundraising events, your grants, and other documents for compliance and operational purposes, consider nonprofit management anywhere. It is a completely cloud service. You can start using it today with no need for local installation on your server or on your local laptop and computers. It is user-friendly and it's easy to deploy, and you can start using it today. I have the QR code on the screen. You can scan the QR code and you can learn more about Anywhere apps, including nonprofit management anywhere. Well, there is more. If you'd like to talk to me directly about Anywhere apps, you can just send me an email directly, kevin@kerconsulting.com. Anywhere apps are modern, they are easy to use, they are affordable, practical, and more importantly, that's designed for you to help you digitize and automate your business processes. Scan the QR code or just send me a direct email, kevin@kerconsulting.com. Thank you for your support. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is bringing you foreign languages. Learn from the experts, choose your plan to get started, sign up today. New Year is coming, and if your New Year resolution is learning a foreign language, Rosetta Stone is the choice for you. Rosetta Stone is offering you a long list of foreign languages: French, Italian, German, Chinese, Greek, Turkish, Polish, Portuguese, Vietnamese, and many more languages are available for you to get started today. Scan the QR code on the screen and sign up for Rosetta Stone and enjoy the learning experience of foreign language. Thank you very much. Support for the show comes from DocuSign. DocuSign is the latest, modern, cloud-based digital electronic signature software system. You can sign your vendor contracts, customer contracts, NDAs, and any type of contracts digitally with no need of local installation or no need of keeping your documents on your laptop or your mobile device. Furthermore, DocuSign is equipped with intelligent agreement management that helps you digitize and automate your repeating contracts, whether that's a supplier contract, customer contract, NDA, and legal documents. I have the QR code on the screen to sign up for DocuSign subscription right now. It comes with a free trial with no obligation. You can digitize and automate your contract management and document management processes starting today. True story. I also use DocuSign regularly and it works very smooth. Highly recommended. You see the QR code on the screen. Scan the QR code. It'll take you to their website. Sign up today, start the free trial, and join the team, and enjoy the DocuSign features and benefits. Thank you very much. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Just Answer. Real help from real experts 24/7. Experts such as lawyers, doctors, veterinarians, computer technicians, home improvement experts, mechanics, personal tax experts, computer technicians, and many other experts are available for you 24/7 on Just Answer. You'll get your answers anytime, during the day, during the night, 24/7, and you'll get your answers from reliable sources. You can scan the QR code on the screen and you can sign up for Just Answer. The answers you need at a price that is right. Scan the QR code and sign up for Just Answer today. Thank you for your support. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Wizen. At the American Business Podcast, we always talk about continuous improvement and professional development. That is why we partner with Wizen, trust the nation's largest network for tutoring. Wizen helps you find the tutor that you need in many different subjects: chemistry, computer, foreign languages, geometry, English, music, physics, reading, SAT, science, and many more. I have the QR code on the screen that you can sign up and start searching for tutors and enjoy the learning experience and continuous improvement as we always talk about in the American Business Podcast. Scan the QR code and sign up for Wizen today. Thank you very much. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Invicta. Invicta is known for its stylish watches, both for men and women. Invicta is offering unisex watches as well. I have a confession. I am an Invicta fan and I've been using Invicta watches for many years. This one is 57mm Invicta watch, automatic. Because it's black color, it goes well with my business outfit. And because it's automatic, I don't need batteries for my watch. It gets the energy by me just moving the watch from my wrist. So it creates energy and it can go pretty much non-stop. I have the QR code on the screen, and when you scan the QR code, you'll be able to see the Invicta watch collection. And you can pick the one that you like based on the color, style, and technology. Please scan the QR code, start shopping today, and join me using Invicta. I'm sure you'll like it. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for joining me in the American Business Podcast. If you like to be a guest in the American Business Podcast, please send us an email, guestbooking@americanpodcast.tv. If you like to sponsor, advertise your company, your products and services, you can also send us an email, growyourbusiness@americanpodcast.tv. I also like to invite you to our website, americanpodcast.tv, to get the latest information about the American Business Podcast. Also, you can see our coming schedule next week and following week as well. Thank you very much for watching and listening to the American Business Podcast. I'm looking forward to having you in the coming episode. Thank you very much and have a great weekend.